a video on making some homemade Vegemite stroke Marmite, which is basically just a yeast extract that you put on toast. So I don't know why I'm curious about this, because I prefer Bovril, which is a meat extract, as opposed to Marmite. But I'm always curious about things. So I got some yeast from my friend who brews beer, and I've done a little bit of research, and I'm not entirely sure what I'm doing. And the video that I watched wasn't particularly clear on why you do kind of certain things in a certain order, and I think it wasn't very good at explaining things. Like there seemed to be a lot of heating of yeast for like 8 hours at 40 degrees, and I didn't really kind of quite understand why he was doing that. And then he kind of basically slowly heated the yeast again to thicken it up, and then added some vegetable stock to it. So I was kind of like, it seems like a lot of kind of processes, but the yeast that he'd got it straight from a brewery, and the yeast was still kind of quite active. So what he must have done was he was heating the yeast at 40 degrees, which is blood temperature, which is the temperature that yeast likes to be active at, for the 8 hours, was basically a way of getting as much kind of letting the kind of yeast naturally kind of die off. If that kind of makes sense to me. So you kind of you carry on, the yeast kind of carries on living and reproducing, but then slowly kind of dies off because it runs out of food. And the 8 hours was kind of to make sure that kind of happened. So I did that, and I had the yeast before I worked out what he was trying to do. I had the yeast and I did that, but my yeast was already dead, so it kind of seemed a little bit pointless. I'm not making much sense, I understand this. So I got 2 batches of yeast. This is the one I heated for the 8 hours, and I pured it and then heated it, and then it kind of turned into that. That's what the yeast looked like before, that I got from my friends, so that's kind of quite solid. And now, and of course I put it through a sieve as well. Put this one through a sieve as well. So what I'm going to do is we're going to add this to the pan, and we're going to slowly heat it and evaporate it off, so it becomes the liquid off in it, so it becomes sticky. And then months ago I made some vegetable stock. So months ago I made some vegetable stock, which is this, which has been in the fridge in a sealed container, and made that months ago. And then once this is reduced and sticky, we'll add some of that vegetable stock. So this is just kind of like a let's have a go, see what happens at first type of thing, and then I've got the backup yeast if we need to kind of do it kind of again. So it's not grainy, it's got a little bit of, it's a little bit bitter, but we'll kind of see what happens. So yeast in here, and I'm gently gonna, I think I put in some yeast from some other things as well. So I put in some yeast from some mead that I'd made, and some whey mead as well. So I think the yeast went in from those as well when I was faffing about with that. So it's a mixture of yeast. My friend did say that it had made a beer that was kind of quite bitter, not that kind of nice to drink. So he wasn't a fan of it. So he put extra hops in. But hops become less hoppy over time, so we might have lost some of that bitterness. It's not particularly nice taste in its form now. It's a little bit sweet, so we'll kind of see what happens. So this is the let's have a go video, and then if we think it's some kind of success, we can have another go video, because I won't be using all that stock, and I've got that backup yeast at the back. So heat this and cook it, and reduce off all the liquid so it becomes really sticky. That's my plan. And then we'll add some stock to it, reduce that stock down, and then we'll see how that is, if the stock's still alright. It was, what was it made out of? There's some onions, there's some carrot, some carrot peelings and all bits of other onions. It's not quite a nice looking vegetable stock. It looks kind of quite clear. What does it taste like? It's nice. So if that flavour from there gets concentrated and goes into that, it might kind of compensate for the yeast not being that nice to eat. I wonder what that yeast tastes like. Because this was some of the batch that he quite preferred. It's kind of quite thick. So that probably needs. So this is what the yeast looked like when I first got it. So it looked like that, like a bit grainy. So I can see why you need to sieve it. So let's have a taste. See, that tastes different again. Not particularly pleasant to eat, if I'm honest. Not particularly pleasant to eat. Ugh. So I don't know where we'll have. I think we're kind of. People take the leftover products from like the brewing process and I think, what on earth can we do with this? Let's try and turn it into something that we can resell to the general public. And I think that's what they kind of do with things like Marmite and Vegemite. They've got this yeast from the brewing process that they can't do anything with. So someone decides, so you can buy it, or it's like a waste product. So you can get it basically for free, and then you can do something with it, and then you can turn it into something that you can then sell. You know. So I think that's basically it. Or you have to pay to get rid of waste products, and them being kind of thrown away. You can't just tip them down the sink, but someone's got to do something with it. So you kind of have to pay them to take them away. So if you are, as a company, if you can take someone's waste product, get paid for taking it away, and then do something with it, or sell it to someone who can do something with it, you kind of win-win. It's like double bubble. You get paid for taking it away, and then you get to sell it as well. So I think Marmite might be one of those type of things where that's where it kind of came from. Someone kind of thought, well, I'm getting paid to take this waste away. They can't just pour it down the sink or into the sewage systems. So they have to pay me to take it away, and I'm going to do something with it, and then I'm going to turn it into something and kind of get paid twice. Or the actual companies who had the waste yeast in the first place actually took this waste product and thought, we've got to do something with this. It's going to cost us to take it for it to be taken away. Can we turn it into something that we then kind of sell? So those are my kind of thoughts on why we've got things like Marmite. You know, so like Worcestershire sauce is basically the guts from fish, you know, and then it's fermented and turned into this sauce. So no one wants to eat the guts of the fish, but you can turn it into Liam Perrin's Worcestershire sauce, and then you can sell it. So similar type of thing is my idea. So heat gently. We don't want to boil it. We just want to thicken it up by evaporating off the excess liquid, and then we'll kind of see what happens. So it's already kind of happening around the outside. So we'll just kind of leave that on low. Probably take about 2 hours, something like that. And I've already waffled for 8 minutes. So we'll kind of see how that kind of goes. Yes, we'll just have to see. And then we need to add salt as well. So I'm not going to add salt now. Although maybe a little bit of salt would be a good idea. A little bit of salt might be a good idea. So we'll put some salt in now, because Marmite and those type of extracts are kind of quite salty. Umami is the word, but kind of quite salty as well. So we'll put a little bit of salt in now, and that actually might break down the yeast a little bit as well. So a little bit of salt now, but this is just the trial run before we can have another go with a bit of yeast. I'm waffling. I'll stop, and then we're back when it's thickened up and hopefully not burnt. So it's been reducing down for a couple of hours, and it's gone thick, and it's gone a little bit darker as well. So it's obviously concentrated flavours and colour. I'm slightly concerned that if I reduce that further down in the pan, then it's going to start to stick and potentially burn. That's not what I want. I'm just taking it off the heat as well. I had it on the smaller gas jet at the back, because I thought this gas jet at the front was just a little bit too kind of big. So I'm slightly concerned that that's going to reduce it down any further. It's going to want to stick and burn. I've tasted it. It's not particularly nice, but that's the yeast part of it to it. can certainly taste that it's from beer and other things. So what I'm thinking I'm going to do is I will take that yeast out of there and we'll put it into a bowl like that. See, as you can see, that's really thick as that. And then we'll use this pan to reduce down the stock, and then that will kind of take the, we'll give it a swish around as well, so it'll take off some of the reduced yeast from the side of the pan as well. So, and then we won't kind of waste any of that kind of flavour. I don't want to reduce that down with the yeast in it. What we'll do is we'll reduce that down first, get the, swoosh it around, get the flavour from the right around the side of the pan, so that's not kind of wasted, and then as it's reducing down a bit, then we'll add the yeast extract in at the last for the last 5 or 10 minutes, something like that. I don't think that needs any more cooking. So that's kind of like my theory. That's kind of like theory. But all this kind of stuff here, that's just gonna keep cooking and burning. I shouldn't really be using metal on metal, but it's only the first half around the video. I should really change the name of my channel to the Hacking Around in the Kitchen channel. But you get the idea. I don't want to kind of waste that kind of flavour. Actually, what we've got is a pastry brush, so that'll be better. We use a pastry brush. There we go. Pastry brush is better. So that just kind of taste that off there. I can't remember what I made what did I make what was I cooking when I made the vegetable stock? I'm sure I just made a rough vegetable stock. I think it probably had some maybe cabbage stalks in it, and maybe a bit of onion and a little bit of celery and some probably the carrot peelings and maybe the inside of a cabbage, you know, like the outside leaves or something like that. I didn't put anything strong in it like garlic or herbs or anything like that, but just kind of, it tastes nice. So that flavour will reduce. It's kind of quite sweet as well, so that will hopefully kind of compensate for the bitterness of the yeast. But you can see as that cools, that's getting thicker and thicker. Let's taste it. Yeah, it's just kind of got a bit of an aftertaste to it, which kind of like Marmite hasn't. But this video that I was watching, he was adding some kind of chemicals to it as well, sodium something or other, and something sodiumy, something other. I can't be bothered getting those. I can't be bothered buying those. Although you might have to. But anyway, so this is going to come up to boil. And because we've removed the outsides of the sticky stuff, it will reduce down, and we'll kind of have that kind of flavour. So we'll reduce that kind of a little bit quicker. So, and that's kind of consistency we kind of want. So we'll reduce this down by about to a quarter to what it originally was. We'll add that in, heat it up, and then hopefully we'll get some kind of right kind of consistency. And then all that flavour and all that kind of sweetness of the vegetable stock will be impaired, is that the right word? Into the yeast. So my idea is, so if we added that yeast to there, that would be higher in volume, and then it would be, there'd be like more of a line upside in the inside of the pan as it was reducing, so we'd lose kind of flavour down to there. So as we were using there's less liquid in there than there would be if there was that and that together reducing down, then we're not kind of losing any kind of flavour. That smells really good, does that? So that was kind of my idea with that. Kind of a use my basic, well, not basic, it's not a basic understanding of cooking. I mostly know what I'm doing. So what does that taste like? Yeah, it tastes alright. That tastes alright, it's kind of quite sweet. Yeah, so juice that down, add that to that, add some salt, see what it tastes like. Right, stock is reduced. Let's have a taste. Maybe not as reduced as I would have liked, but we'll see how it goes. That actually tastes more Marmite than anything else. That's kind of quite interesting. That is kind of quite interesting. That is kind of quite interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so this into here, and then that will melt into the stock. We'll give it some heat, and hopefully by the time the yeast has melted into there, it should have reduced enough that it'll become thick again. Let's see, that needs scraping off there, and all that. You see how thick it is. And then I get all this from in here. I don't want it reducing too fast, that it just boils up and then starts to burn. So burn like that, and then mix it around, and then okay, we can turn it. No, I've got to pay more attention to it. I need to get the whisk in there, probably. Let's get the whisk in. You might turn it a little bit lumpy. I'm not going to put it through a sieve to get it smooth. I think to get it put it through a sieve will just be a ridiculously impossible task. And the thing, yeah, so the only thing that will make it grainy will be the if any kind of skin has formed on it, or any bits from the outside have gone into the Marmite mixture. Right, so quick wash of the spoon. Get a little bit of taste. So that's alright. Oh, it's like chocolate. It won't taste like chocolate. It is bitter, but the yeast was bitter to start off with. Let's add some salt now. It must be kind of quite salty, so we don't use too much Marmite in things, so it wants to be saltier than most things. Yeah, so if you taste things like yeast extract, it's quite salty. I wonder if adding reducing the rest of the stock down, and then adding that to it would compensate for a little bit of the bitterness, because it is kind of quite sweet as the stock. So maybe we need to buy those chemicals. Don't really want to though. No, it's okay. Concentrated beer type of flavour to it. So if you're making like steak and ale pie, what you do is you don't just add the beer to the meat and cook it. You heat the beer to reduce the amount of liquid that it holds and concentrate the kind of flavour and burn off the alcohol. So it kind of tastes a little bit like the reduced beer that you put in a steak and ale pie. We'll see. Right, so I'll carry on cooking. But it's getting thicker. So I'll carry on cooking and then we'll kind of see. But for me to show the process of it cooking is a bit boring, isn't it? Right. So I don't think that wants reducing anymore. I think if I reduce it anymore, it's going to start to catch and burn, which is not what I want. So I've got a jar. It's got a lid on it, but it doesn't matter. We use a bit of. I don't know how this is actually going to turn out, so I'm not that bothered if it doesn't work out, and I don't think I'll end up saving it. It's the right kind of consistency. Nice and thick. It's got a nice colour to it. I'm concerned that it's going to be bitter because I don't know how you could possibly get rid of that bitterness, and reducing it and concentrating the flavour is only going to concentrate the bitterness as well. But we'll see. We will see. Let's not clean the pan just yet. Let's think that we might just reduce that with a bit of. We didn't use all the stock, so we might reduce that last bit of stock down and see if we can mask the bitterness of it. So let's taste it when it's warm. Yeah, it's got that bitter after. It's got that bitter aftertaste. I've got some bread. I've been baking bread today, so let's see if we can spread it on a bit of bread and see if I'm going to see what happens. So. I mean, I wouldn't recommend tasting. I haven't got any butter in the house. I wouldn't recommend eating Marmite out of the jar. So maybe kind of tasting it like that is not the best way. That's too much. Not too. I put quite a lot of salt in. I added extra salt, but it's not salty. So we'll give it a taste. No, it's just not that pleasant to eat. I think Sorry, I'm eating on camera. I'm making noises with my mouth, which I'm very aware of when I watch my videos back when I'm editing. Well, editing-ish. Yeah. Let's see what it tastes like when it's cold. We're not going to be reducing that down. Let's wash that up. That's out of the way. I'm thinking now that the yeast wasn't that nice to taste in the first place, so I can't imagine that the yeast, if the yeast was nice in this form, so if when the yeast was like that, it wasn't that nice to eat in the first place. So to think that it would taste nicer when it was in a more concentrated form was kind of a little bit ridiculous. So let's just see if I can, but I don't know where to get some better tasting yeast from. Yeah, the yeast needs to be nice tasting to start off with, doesn't it? So it probably needs to be like a non-hoppy beer, which is not something that you kind of get. Like people who brew beer want to put hops in it. We'll see what it's like when it's cold. Right. Ooh, it lights on. Let's see how it tastes when it's cold. I don't think it's going to taste any better. It's about right. It's an alright consistency for Marmite though, isn't it? Okay. Yeah. It's actually horrible when it's cold. So, it's certainly the yeast. I've got a bit of a cough. That didn't make me cough. It's certainly the yeast that was bitter that's made it taste like that. So, I don't think using the other yeast that I've got will make a difference. I just don't think it's going to be very nice. I wonder if we can. I'll have a think. The vegetable stock in it's really kind of quite nice. Maybe we can buy some. I've had a look around, and we can buy some yeast flakes. So we're kind of curious to see what they taste like. Although they look like fish food, but we'll just kind of see. So didn't work, but that's just as interesting as something that does work, because I like a bit of a challenge. So we'll be having a play around, and we're going to see what we can kind of do. Didn't cost me anything, just a bit of time and a bit of gas, and a bit of work and a bit of fun. It didn't work, doesn't matter. We'll do something else.